to be effective, you have to know what's holding you back. You have to know what your internal dialogue is telling you. And you have to be very conscious of that. A lot of us, we just do things and we don't know the reasons why we do things. And it's our subconscious mind is about, they say, between 85 and 95% of why you do things. So really start to know what your internal dialogue, what's going on the inside.
Are you a solopreneur looking to 2 times your revenue to fund your lifestyle and give back? Well, this podcast is for you. We bring you inspirational guests sharing actionable tips to solve many of the struggles you face each and every day. And now over to your host, Paul Higgins.
Hello to the Build, Live, Give podcast. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. And if you're a regular, thanks for your support. Love to get your feedback at paul@buildlivegive.com. Our guest today is someone who's got an amazing story from pain to joy. It is definitely one not to miss out on. I was so inspired, I just threw out my normal questions and listened. He's the director of the Australian Institute of Personal Trainers, MD of Harkham Wines, and co-founder of the Energy Alliance. And in a 5-second life-changing moment in 2014, his life took a turn which now sees him as chairman and founder of the Hark Foundation, which is changing children's lives around the world. So why listen? One is his inspirational story of how your worst day can determine your best, the importance of organ donation, and why people overplan what they can achieve in 1 year and underplan what they can do in 10. You can donate to their charity at harkangel.org. So now over to Richie Harkham from Hark Angel. Welcome, Richie Harkham, to the Build, Live, Give podcast. Brilliant to have you on today, Richie.
G'day. Nice to be here, my friend.
Yeah, look, I know before we went live, you're talking about you recently on one of the biggest podcasts in the world. Tell me what that was like.
I don't know if I can talk about it yet, actually.
Well, this will come out after it does.
Oh, great. Yeah, so I was on, I will be on Tony Robbins' podcast. I did the interview already. Yeah, it was amazing. A great opportunity. Tony's someone which I really look up to. He's changing so many people's lives. He's such an inspiring person. So it was a fantastic opportunity to be there and share my message, you know?
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I'm glad, he was the first act and on the second. So I'm very, very pleased with that. But why don't you tell me something that your family or friends know about you that we don't?
Okay. So maybe that I was initiated into the Masai tribe, the African Masai tribe. I lived with them in 2013 for a little bit. I was building a facility for really poor girls, and they initiated me into their tribe, buddy. So you're talking to a Masai warrior over here.
Well, I've seen some pretty horrific inductions from TV with sticks and God knows what. Like, how was yours? Tell us how your initiation was.
Well, it was really cool. Like, so basically, the video which I can share for you to share to with this podcast is me actually dancing with the Masais. They're the guys in the beads that jump, and they're some of the fiercest warriors in the world. And I was really fortunate that I got to experience their rite of passage from being a teenager into being an adult. And I got an insight into their world, and their rite of passage is having to face their deepest fears by going out into the Masai Mara and hunting a lion.
Wow. Now,
they don't kill the lion, but they have to come face to face with a lion where they could be killed. So they asked me if I wanted to join them doing that, and I kindly declined, saying it's not my rite of passage. And I was in the comfort of my cab drinking tea whilst they were out there. But I'm an honorary Masai warrior, which is pretty cool. So some of the other things they do is they will eat the kidney and drink live blood from an animal. And they also get Masai burns, which I got. And then they get circumcised at the age of 18 or 19, the boys. So I also kindly declined. That one. I'm Jewish, so I've already gone through that. I don't want it a second time.
Yeah, well, you can only go once. But yeah, well, that's a first. I've never actually spoken to anyone that's gone through that experience or parts of that experience. So that's brilliant. Now I know.
Do you know what? One thing actually to add to that is one of the things is they teach you when you're a Masai is not to feel pain. So basically, how not to feel pain in your life. They're the strongest warriors. Like lions are actually scared of them. It's crazy. Yeah, so that was actually really interesting to learn their teachings actually being passed down from generation, generation, generation.
So I don't know if you're able to do it, but give us a quick snapshot of what your learnings were on how not to feel pain.
Oh, basically, like, look, number one, they're very unique. I mean, you and I and the average person, we can't do this. This is, as I said, they're from child to old person. They're being taught this constantly. And it kind of just goes like, remove your head from the situation. So to actually take your mind elsewhere. I never mastered it in any token, but I constantly thought about it in my journey, actually. I as we'll probably get into, I have faced a lot of pain in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was really interesting to know that.
Yeah, look, I haven't, not the extremes, but I've had a couple of surgeries in the last 12 months. And I know one was someone was basically pulling out a major tube, and the general wore off. And I said to the guy, look, I can feel you cutting and putting the stitches in. He's gone, that's okay, it won't take long. And then, I just, thought of something like, the old classic, a beach or something, and just, thought that the pain was actually calm water over my body. And it definitely reduced what I would normally do. But I always have a go at nurses saying, when they go to give you a needle, it's like, this is going to hurt. I'm like, don't say it's going to hurt because,
So I was going to say, it doesn't even actually hurt that much. Nothing hurts that much, really. It's actually waiting for the pain that hurts the most, right? But I've also been in a situation, like, I think for me, a couple of my bad ones were, I've been in situations where they're stapling me with no anesthesia, or pulling out staples, or also pulling a tube from my body, or like digging around in my leg. It's been, yes, I feel your pain, my friend. I mean, you've gone through a lot. I'm actually, like, after last time we spoke, I really look up to you as well, my friend. You've got a lot to teach people, actually.
Well, look, and let's talk about a bit of your journey, because, normally I have people on that have left their job to run their own business. I know you've been an entrepreneur all the time, and an amazing entrepreneur, but you did have a bit of a life-changing moment. And I can't remember, was it back in 2013 or what?
Yeah, so it was 2014.
14.
So just to give you a little bit of context about me, maybe, I'm one of 9 children in my family. My father was a migrant to Australia. I came here with nothing. I grew up watching him. He basically didn't finish school and was thrown out into the world of business. I'm with my uncles and my grandparents, and they were all had to make it from nothing. And it inspired me so much. And I just couldn't wait to start working. I mean, he used to work in the rag trade business. And I used to go out to his factory when I was a young boy, like 9 years old, 8 years old. And I used to love it. It was always the hustle, like, oh my God, we got to get the number of dresses completed, and we got to cut this, we got to sell this. And he's always selling. And I couldn't wait to start work. And I started work at 12 years old. And I've worked my whole life all the way through. And right to 2014, I would work like so hard. I'd work 6 days a week. I'd work night and day just to get to where I need to get to, without any real kind of direction. And before 2014, when I had my accident, I just started to get some traction. Like, I entered the workforce after university at 21, and I never stopped. And I've owned many different businesses, and I was on top of the world in 2014. And one day I woke up feeling a little bit off, and I felt a little bit satiated for the first time in my life. It was really weird. I finished harvest. I just got back from an amazing trip away, and I just felt a little bit bored with things. It's really weird because I've never felt bored in my life. If you know me, I've got a million things, ideas going. And have you ever felt like that? A little bit off before Paul?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like, I reckon the last 10 years of my corporate life, but that's another story.
Really? Yes, I think all of us have kind of felt a little of that before. And just that day, it was really weird. I didn't go out. I didn't do anything. And that evening, I committed to a friend of mine to go for dinner with him. And where we were going for dinner is Potts Point in Sydney. If you know that area, I'm not sure. Do you know the area, Paul?
Yeah, know it well.
So there's no parking there. And I only had my ute and my motorbike. And I thought, you know what? I just dart up there and back. I didn't want to go. I'm one of those people, I like to freaking please people, you know? Like, I don't like to upset people. And I push myself with this commitment. So if I say I'm going to do something, I will always do it. I think you're probably the same.
Yeah, and sometimes to my detriment, but you continue.
Yes, I'm exactly the same way. Like anyways, so off I went on my motorbike. It was a bit of an eerie, looking back, it was like a bit of an eerie evening. It was a big full moon in the sky. And I remember I was riding up Old South Head Road. And I remember the love that I had for this motorbike. It was a 1994 custom Sportster Harley Davidson. We stripped away all the parts. We built it from scratch. And you have to love the beautiful roar and the free road of the motorbike, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm just cruising up the road, thinking about how much I love this bike. And I made a right-hand turn off Old South Head Road in Bellevue Hill into a road called Victoria Road. And then I thought, why have I gone this way? I've never gone this way in my whole entire life. And up ahead, I'm at the front of the traffic, and I could just see on my left-hand side, it was a white station Holden wagon waiting at the brick gates of an apartment building. And, the driver had no lights, no indicator on. He was looking the other way. And I mean, on a motorbike, as an advanced motorbike rider, man, you see this maybe 4 or 5 times a day. This will happen to you when you ride motorbikes. Some idiot on the phone, someone not watching, someone changing lanes without blinkers, not looking at their blind. But after 17 years of riding motorbikes, basically what happens is you scan the road for potential threats and you avoid the threat before it happens. Right? You get that?
Totally. Well, I ride bikes as well. And I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So how many times a day do you, like every time you get on your bike, something will almost happen, right? And you avoid it.
I've always got the view that the motorists around me are going to hit me.
Yes.
So how am I going to avoid it? That's my default position.
Yes. It's called defensive riding. And any advanced motorbike rider would say the exact same thing. And it's always served me. This guy was in the driveway. It was a very low level threat because he had like 30 seconds. I presumed he was coming out to make a right. It was pretty dangerous where it is. But he had so much time to do it. And he was kind of looking the other way, and no lights in the window. You wouldn't think he would be moving. And then as I approached him, I'm looking at him. Didn't make any moves. He was a low-level threat. And, when we approach something, we slow down, right? You look at him, and then as you go past, you accelerate, right? And as I started accelerating past him, he slammed on the gas, like really fast. And he started to really quickly come out. And I'm just about to start passing him. And there was nothing I could do. I presumed he was going to see me and slam on the brakes. And I worked out if he touched the brakes, I'd just be able to get around him. But rather than braking, he accelerated even more. And there's nothing I could do. So I just braced for that impact because he was going to hit me. There's nothing I could do. And then, bang, he smacked me and he T-boned me. His car pinned my legs against my motorbike. And I just felt a braking feeling. I didn't feel any pain. It was really unusual. Then he slammed on the brakes. My motorbike was pushed like kind of going down, but pushing oncoming traffic. And it was dark, and all I could see were headlights coming to run me over. The lights were blinding me. Death was right there in that moment, Paul. And, you know, they say your whole life is in front of you. Automatically, I started thinking about all the good things that I've done in my life. And I was really calm, and it really was shocking that I was really calm. And I was really at peace with dying. It was really odd. And then the car veered off and missed me. And I just had to get off that motorbike. And I just pushed back with all my might because it was going to land on my already broken leg. I just closed my eyes and pushed as much as I could. My left foot was skewed. That was the first time I noticed that my foot wasn't straight. And I just pushed off with my right, and I cleared the bike, shut my eyes, hit the ground first with my head, completely broke my helmet. And then the second I touched the ground, I opened my eyes. I kind of did a stock take of my body. And the minute I was out of pain, I was out of danger, I just had the worst pain that I've ever felt in my life. And I was bleeding out of my pants, and there was exposed bone. And I was just screaming from pain. You know, people tell you that pain will make you pass out. It's actually the opposite. It's the most conscious feeling in the world. I couldn't get away from it. And I was half screaming from pain, and then I was half in shock that the day before I beat my running record, and I was the strongest and fittest that I'd ever been in my life. I was at 34 at the time. And I couldn't understand how in 1 second our lives can change forever. It just takes 1 second. It was amazing. And I was screaming out, why God, why God, why me, why me? I just couldn't get my head around that this had happened to me. And I was scared. I was really, really scared. And I waited for 25 minutes on the side of the road, screaming and blood coming out. And, with a motorbike accident, it's horrific, right? Because you don't know how bad it is. And then someone's screaming and all the traffic stops. And then 10 people came around me. And the people that came around me were actually heroes, like one woman was a doctor, and she was trying to help me. And a guy called Triple O. I since got the Triple O phone call, and they were trying to tell him to put a wet cloth on my leg. And I was like, don't touch my leg, because I was bleeding out on the road. Yeah.
Wow. That's an incredible incident. Like you said, that in that one split second can completely change your life. And I was interested where you said you were really at peace. I don't know exactly, but, my near-death experience was, a simple operation that turned complicated, and in short, I was bleeding to death. And I actually fought like crazy. I was so angry that I was going to go, and I just fought like crazy and was swearing and basically saying I'm not coming back. Now, the doctors say that it was probably just due to the drugs post-surgery, and it never actually happened.
Bullshit.
But to me,
I don't believe that. You were fighting, man. You're a fighter.
Correct. I was like, there's no way I was going to go. And that, your elevation and all the things that you hear other people say in stories, and you think, does it happen? Doesn't it happen? For me personally, that happened.
Wow.
It was.
I think my one. So I'm a bare knuckle duster. Like, if you give me an analogy of who I am, I will hustle till I die, basically. I never give up. You knock me down 50 times, I get back up 51 times. And that's a person that I am. But in that situation, there was nothing that I could do. So I think that it was my body just saying, okay, it's cool. It's going to happen. Like, you can't do nothing. And I love that I went there rather than freaking out. This is the end,
Yeah.
Back to that, that moment was the biggest moment in my 4-year journey that I've been through. Was that one moment, was one of my most powerful moments. Later, I suffered post-traumatic stress disorder, not about dying, but about if I did die, there were so many things in my life that I hadn't done or that I had just put off doing. or I could have done a little bit better, and what a waste of life it would have been. And you know what? Since that moment, I've chased down every single thing that I put off doing, and I've accomplished it in my life. I changed my life around. It was an awakening point in my life, was that one moment, was that 5 seconds. It's crazy.
And, I know you action that today. So tell me some of the things that you've done, particularly around the Archangel, the way that you've changed your life and started giving.
Yeah.
I know you haven't lost the hustle, but you've, I suppose, moved your energy in different ways.
Yeah. So I will chase down things a lot more today. I play knowing that I'm going to die. How many people can really say that in their lives? How many people have come face to face with dying before? So through my journey, I've actually stopped breathing. So just quickly to recap. So what happened after that accident was I shattered my whole left leg from my knee downwards. So compound fractures, tibia, fibula, and then my tibial plateau, which is the bottom of my knee, I shattered into like maybe 57 different pieces.
Wow.
And then later, the top of my knee, which is the femur, collapsed, as long as with burns and everything else that happened to my leg. And it was a huge, huge accident, which left me in and out of hospitals for a few years. I spent hundreds of days laying in a hospital bed for more than 20 hours a day. I've had chronic pain for over 3 years. I've had 8 major operations, 7 of which have failed me. I had a golden staph infection, which turned into osteomyelitis. I've done 200 days on the most aggressive antibiotics in the world. I had a world first operation twice in Germany. So, I've gone through a lot in my life to recognize that we live once. And I've been on the other side, and you've experienced this a little bit as well, Paul. Like we spoke about this. You've been on the side of being unwell and not being in the world of the living. And when I say that is, every day I never gave up, and I always made sure that I lived my life the best I could with where I was, even if it was minute by minute, day by day. But there are 2 sides to life. There's the people which are capable and living, and there's the people which are in the system. You're going through something. You're in pain. You're suffering. You've got operations hanging over your head. And it is such a privilege to be on the other side again. After 4 years of being in the medical world, where you're in the system, to now being able to live life the way that I want to live my life, the way that you want to live your life. And once you have that perspective, once you could see things from that way, you would chase down everything and you will live every moment like it's your last moment to live. Let me ask you a quick question, Paul, before I get into Archangel. Since you've had your medical experience as of a year ago, right? And now you are much better, correct?
Yes.
What have you changed in your life since then?
For me, it's more of a calmness, right? So for me, I was always chasing something, which was good, but a lot of the things that I chased weren't what I really loved to do. So I think I woke up in the hospital, in ICU, like stitches all over my body, etc. And I thought, the great thing is, the biggest change I've already made, which was to leave corporate and run my business called Build, Live, Give. That was a life-changing moment for me because now I'm better with my family, blah, blah, blah. But then the thing that resonated with me from there was like, well, how are you going to give back more? Because you are actually only really focused on you still. Like you say that you're focused broad than that, but you're only focusing on you. And that's when I realized for me, first, I'm going to write a book. Like I'm sitting in hospital, I've got nothing else to do. So why don't I write a book to help people like me who've left corporate to run their own business? And then the second thing is you've got to give more. So that's why I've approached you, and I'd love to talk more in a moment about Hark Angels. Is like, how can you truly give back rather than, for me at the moment, it's a bit like lip service. So that was probably the biggest awakening, but there is a calmness in doing that. I'm not, it's like I've experienced the worst. So now, just, make the most of your life, but be calm about it.
You've done a complete 180 in your life. You've achieved so much. And as hard as it is for someone like you or me to say, but it's true. It's one of the best things that could happen to you.
Oh, for sure.
One of the worst things to happen to you. And I think that is our job in life. I'm a motivational speaker, and my topic is called the return on resilience. So resilience is about bouncing back. And what I've come up with is a framework to help you find an opportunity in bad things that happen to you, in bad things that happen to us. And I've come up with this framework called kadima, which is a mystical Hebrew word for moving forward. So in everything, God gives us challenges to make us the people that we are. And we have to accept that we're going to go through things. But I think the biggest thing is to be prepared for that, to be prepared for what you're going to go through, and then to pull an opportunity, find a little bit goodness in something that happens to you, you know, rather than be affected. There's an amazing author. Her name is Caroline Myss. I don't know if you've heard about her before.
No, I haven't.
Caroline Myss came up with a term called woundology. And what woundology is, she was actually doing research for one of her books. It's called Why People Don't Heal and How They Can. It's an extraordinary book. And this term woundology, while she came up with it, it's become a recognized psychological condition. And her book became a New York Times bestseller. And what it is people that become consumed by their illness. That's all that they can talk about. It takes them over, and they're in denial about their lives. All they have is their illness. And it's important rather than be like that. I mean, I suffer from that for a little bit, I'm sure. But rather than be like that, to pull some goodness, find the opportunity in bad things that happen to you, which is what I'm all about. And that's my message. So back to your question, Hark Angel. I was granted an amazing opportunity from a young boy who passed away. He was driving with his mom in Germany, and they were in a convertible Mercedes-Benz. A truck came around the corner, couldn't stop, saw them, plowed into the back of them. The mother was killed instantly. The young boy, he had his head, like all donors, and was pronounced brain dead. Now, in hospital and life support, his father had this terrible decision. Do you turn the life support system off, or do you allow your son to become a donor? Now, the thing with child donors there are none of them. And there are hundreds in Australia of children on a waiting list, waiting for organs, for tissue, because no parent, it's so hard for a parent to allow their child to become a donor. No, I don't know any parents that will have a tick on their child's, they don't have licenses, but allow their kids to be a donor, because you never will even want to put that energy on a child, right? So there's a major shortage in Australia. So if anyone is listening out there, and if you're open to it, it'd be amazing if you could just put a tick to being a donor, because you have no idea of how many lives that you can change.
Yeah, and Richard, Richie, on that, what I didn't realise, and I had the gift of my best mate donating a kidney to me, but what I didn't realise is that most families, even when you've ticked it, you've made the decision. Yeah, even if you're 40, they change it. And I think there's only 600 kidneys donated a year.
It's crazy.
And it's about a 6 to 10 year waiting list if you're on the donor list. So I'm with you. And a lot of people say, hey, why do you post so much about your condition? And I'm like, it's not because I'm trying to hang on to it. It's because I want other people to donate. That's the only reason I post it.
Not only that, Paul, because of what you've gone through, you come from a position of understanding, and you've gone through things where you can share with everybody else. I love listening to you talk about it, and that's another thing is, of course, you were given a gift. Of course, you want to also give back a gift. So this young boy, he was a brain dead, and his father had this decision, and he said yes. I was one of the people, and his name I'll never know. He became the inspiration of my life, to be honest with you. I was just blown away by his story. I know his father lost everything in the accident and had the courage to allow his son to become a donor. What happened to me was I had done this transplant surgery. I was the first person in the whole world to get a graft of a knee transplant by an amazing surgeon in Germany. or one of the first people in the world. We're not sure, actually. And he used 3D software technology to do it. And later in my hospital bed, I met or heard of 7 other people, all who got parts from it, all who were enhanced by this young boy. And it blew me away that in his death, he could give life to so many people. And I was inspired. I also wanted to give back. I also wanted to change the world. You know, he was a child. He was a young teenager, and I wanted also to give back to children. And what's the best gift that you can give to a child?
Well, I'm assuming it's education.
Education. And where do they need education the most, Paul?
In probably underdeveloped countries, I'd say.
100%. So since 2013, I've been doing international charity work. I started in Kenya, Africa. And this happened to me in 2016. I got this operation. And that's what I knew. And I wrote the letter to a father, and I said, I want to give back, and I want to build a school in his son's honor in places where children don't have the privilege that we have, and his son's spirit can live on through all these children going to these schools. And when I'm talking about, underprivileged places, I'm talking about third world countries where education is not a right, where a child can be born or sold into slavery, where child labor is the norm, where a young girl is circumcised and sold to an older man for a cow to be married, and unfortunately what happens is a child's life is picked for them. They lose their childhood and they end up becoming adults, and their whole life to get out of that cycle will be very hard for them, because if you have no education and you just work, that's all you'll be all your life, is a workhorse. So what we do is Hark Angel comes in there, and so Hark Angel is a registered charity, and in anything that I do in my life, I try to think big about it. I have this thing where I think that everyone overestimates what they can achieve in 1 year, and they underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. So whatever I do in my life since my accident, I always timed by 10. I thought, okay, we're going to do schools. How many schools do I want to do? So I wanted to just do one for my donor. And then when I saw all the goodness out of it, I thought, okay, there's a return on my resilience. There's an opportunity. And that was to create the Hark Angel Foundation. And I thought, okay, 10 schools would be a really lofty goal. Like, that'd be unbelievable to have 10 schools running. And everything I do, I times it by 10 now. So now I have 100 schools that I want to build. So Hark Angel, we want to build 100 schools in the poorest place in the world, where the world is forgotten, where if kids aren't in school, they start work from 8 or 9 or 10 years old. And we empower them and their communities to change their lives through education. So we go in there and I actively meet with them. And I meet all the children, and I meet the elders, and I meet the chief, and I meet the school committee, and I talk to them. And then we watch them over a period of time. And, we always ask them, what do they need? What do they want? What are the aspirations? What are their dreams for their children? And most of these people are farmers, and they're drought-affected farmers. I'm working in Myanmar at the moment. I just got back a couple of days ago, actually, from there. And they make, between $2 and $4 US a day, if they're lucky. And they need their wives to work, and they're peanut farmers, and they're also, as I said, very drought affected, and they want to have a different lives for their kids. And a lot of the places where we build schools, they all have some form of a school, but they could be studying outside or in a broken building, but it's always too small for the community that they have. And it's always like 40 or 50 years old. And a new school costs $30,000. If you're making $2 a day, how many wages is that to get a new school, right? It'll be impossible for them. Yeah. These guys, in these countries, people live hand to mouth living. It means that whatever money they have, it goes straight to food, straight to living. So we will come in there, we'll speak to them, we'll watch them, we'll speak to the government. They've got to donate land before we do anything. Then we put in the application. Then once the government will approve, they will give us ongoing teachers, so we don't have to pay for ongoing teachers, which is a huge saving. And then I always tell them, once we have the school, that's just the start of our relationship. I'm very good friends with, we've done 8 schools already. And my goal was 10, to think in 2.5 years, I've already done 8.
And you got 92 left.
92 to go. It's funny, when I did 1, and I'd be like, in my head, everything that I do, I have a goal and nothing will stop me. I'm like a dog with a bone, right? So when I did 1, I was just like, yeah, there's 1 school, and people would laugh at me. Now I've got 8 and 92. It's getting better, but we're getting there. It's amazing to go there and just to see children from 3 years ago. And that's the payoff for me. Because I see kids which were much younger, which they struggle in their lives, or they couldn't get to a high school. And now we built a middle school or a high school or a primary school, and you just see them get older and stay in school and get happier and happier and happier. And in your heart, you can get no better feeling in the world than giving back. For me, my purpose of my life is helping other people achieve their happiness in their life. So when I see these kids being happy over time, staying in school, making something of their lives, it gives me so much joy and pleasure in my life that nothing matches that. No Ferrari, no Lamborghini, They're quick fixes, those things. But
yeah. No, look, it's brilliant. And I could, I could sit here and listen for hours. You got such an amazing story. But what I might do is just change gears a little and just ask you a couple of questions. But first, what I'll do is just read out a quick little discussion about my book called Build, Live, Give. I go through the lessons I learned from leaving Coca-Cola to run my own business, how I scaled and kept it going whilst going through my transplant that we've talked about. And, part of having Richie on the show today is to inspire me, but also you listening, to do the give bit. So I've signed up to write 3 books. So the first one's Build, Live, and then I'll have a give one. But you can get it at buildlivegive.com/book to get your copy today. And there'll also be links in the show notes. So Richie, I'm going to, like I said, change gears a little. First is, you do such incredible work. You've got the winery, you've got Hark, Angel, I think you got 6 companies, you're just incredible. But what are some of the daily habits that allow you to be so successful across all aspects of your life?
Okay, so habits are really, really, really important. You have to make sure you have the right habits. So for instance, if one of your goals is to lose weight, and go to the gym in the morning, if you have the habit of going to bed at midnight, you're not going to achieve your goal. So I'm very conscious of my habits. And I'm very conscious to put in habits that will lead to my success. So for me, I'm a morning person. I will always get up in the morning really, really early.
So what's that? What time do you normally get up?
Between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning, I will get up in the morning.
Do you ever set an alarm, or is that just natural?
The craziest thing is I have to set an alarm every single morning, but I've never once been woken up by an alarm in my life.
I do the exact same thing.
And then I love to start my day. I love to get out of the house straight away. So I actually got one bigger habit though. So I believe that my best energy, my most thoughtful part of my day will be first thing in the morning. If I ever have a big problem in my business or in my life, I will never try to resolve it any time past lunchtime or in the evening ever, because you only have so much brain power which gets replenished. So if you think about when you wake up, you're at your strongest brain power. So I like to sit with things, and then in the morning, before I do anything, as soon as I'm up, I will deal with what I need to deal with. So that's the first thing that I will do. So if there's anything really tricky in my day, it's already done first thing in the morning and out of the way.
Great. They'll eat the frog.
Eat the frog. Yeah, I like it. And then I like to get out of the house. I will make myself a cup of tea. Then I'll get straight out of the house and I train every single morning. I love to train. I live most of the time in Bondi Beach. So I walk down to Bondi Iceberg. It's a beautiful part of the world. And even in the winter, I jump in the water every single day. in my life, in what I've been through, in my recovery, I learn not to allow my brain to dictate what's right and wrong for me. And I like to push it to norm. So I like to jump into cold water. I think Tony Robbins does the same thing. He jumps into an ice bath every single morning. A lot of people do it, but I just don't like to give my mind the opportunity to say, Richie, don't do it. I force it. So that's a good habit. And then when I come back home, I actually pray quickly, and I like to get in at least 10 minutes of meditation. And 8:30 in the morning, buddy, I start my day.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And for the international listeners, just Google Bondi Beach and icebergs, and you'll just see what an amazing morning that Richie has each day, because it is one of the most beautiful parts of Australia, if not the world. And I miss it. Living in Melbourne now, I definitely miss that. And the walk from Tamarama to Bondi. Yeah, my daughter just turned 18, and when she was I don't know, 2, because both my kids were born in Sydney, I used to take her on my backpack.
Oh, wow.
And do that walk every day. And yeah, mate, you're blessed to be there. But
so beautiful.
But great people deserve good things. Now,
oh, thank you. But I also believe if you win the morning, you win the day. A lot of people talk about this. I really, really believe that. And happiness is cultivated. You have to put the right things in your day to make you happy, right?
Spot on. Well, look, you've talked about Harkangel, and I know that people can get more at harkangel.org, but just, give a little bit on how, someone can contribute to helping, the children like you've helped.
Definitely. So there are numerous things that we do. I always try to bolster up the community. We've done a lot of it. If anyone has companies out there that think that they could help, I'll give you an example of some of the things that we've done. We joined up with an amazing organization called Bikes for Life, where they fix up old bicycles and they ship them over to our kids. They sent 500 bicycles, and it went to children, which we have a primary school, and the closest middle school is 5 kilometers away, and they can't get there. They can't get to our schools, and now they're able to ride there. We are looking to do any joint ventures with people who think they can help us. I'm looking at the moment, actually, if anyone has any old laptops. There are no computer labs in the schools. Have to be working laptops. They can be old, it doesn't matter, because I really want to put in computer labs. I've got 8 schools, and computing is such a necessary thing, which they want to learn. Libraries, I've investigated. They're about $700 for a library in a school. So if anyone wants to help out, they can do a fundraiser or hold a dinner with friends. If it's in Sydney, I'll come along and I'll speak there. Or if anyone wants to get involved by even coming on our trip, we go April. It's 6 days that I promise will refresh your purpose, give you a whole nother perspective on life. You get to see other cultures. You get to give back. You get to immerse yourself and just be out of your own heads for 5 minutes or 6 days, which is a very liberating feeling. But harkangels.org, you can even donate $20 if you want.
Excellent. And we'll have all those links in the show notes. So the last section's an action section, and I'm going to ask you some questions and get some rapid fire responses. So the first one is, what are your top 3 personal effectiveness tips?
Okay, one would be, I suppose, not to be scared of failing. So I like to fail frequently. I actually have in my office a board of every time I fail, I intentionally fail. And every time I fail, I mark the board and I put where I failed. And when I get to 25 fails, I buy myself a really good gift. The second one is, to be effective, you have to know what's holding you back. You have to know what your internal dialogue is telling you. And you have to be very conscious of that. A lot of us, we just do things and we don't know the reasons why we do things. And it's our subconscious mind is about, they say, between 85 and 95% of why you do things. So really start to know what your internal dialogue, what's going on the inside. And then the third one, I suppose, would be what we just touched on, is to create habits that suit your life. that would want you to achieve your goals in your life. So be very conscious what your habits are. And you're doing yourself a really big favor if you have habits that will help you become more effective.
Brilliant. And the next one is, what's some tech that is essential for you running your multiple businesses?
I think even now what we're using Zoom right now in this interview. And Zoom is so effective in interviewing. It's so easy these days, right? Just click a link and set up a link and boom, you're there. And you can, meet with people anywhere in the world, which is amazing. When I think about tech, I think about third world countries, and I think about some amazing tech coming out there. Digital healthcare tech, which is like if someone has diabetes or just being able to help so many millions of people. I think this next tech revolution, I'm actually invested in a digital health fund, but this next revolution of digital health tech is just going to change so many lives. I'm so excited about it. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, look, I couldn't agree more. And the last one is, you've sort of covered it, so maybe it's the same answer, but I'll ask it anyway. But what's your best source of new ideas?
I think the best source of my new ideas, I love, first of all, reading books, listening to podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I feel like in today's world, there's no excuse for not learning. Whatever you're going through in your life. I mean, life is hard. Everyone's going through something. I know I was looking at statistics the other day. 20% of Australians suffer from depression. 25% Australians of us suffer from anxiety. 1 in 10 people can't confidently know they're going to fall asleep tonight without taking some form of medication or drinking alcohol. 50% of us are getting divorced, an accident, illness, a death of a loved one, betrayal from someone. Life is so hard. And I think to counter that, we need to grow as people. We need to get better as people. So we need to constantly learn and get inspiration. And there's no excuse today. There's podcasts. I mean, your podcast is amazing, but there's so many amazing podcasts out there where we can learn constantly. I love an app called Blinkist. Have you heard of this app?
Yes.
On your phone? I have a bit of ADD, so it's a little bit hard for me to read long books sometimes, even though I do love reading. So I've got to really love the book. But it summarizes books for you. And then there's another app called Pocket, which is for articles. Have you heard of Pocket before, Paul?
Yes.
It's fantastic. You get to see what people are reading out there and then recommend things. And I'm an avid reader on Pocket. And then once I have all this information within me, the biggest source of my ideas, I'm an ideas man and I'm an execution man as well. The biggest source of my ideas is I like to sit there and manifest and let things boil within me. And then once I come up with the right idea over time, I go out and I validate it by speaking to over 100 people. And I slightly just change it to what people who I really believe in, who I respect, think about it, to come up with what the right idea is. And I think being an entrepreneur, what we do is I'm able to see things from another perspective. I see an opportunity that other people don't see, or I can do things that other people are scared of doing. And what the difference is a lot of people have one of those two things. They either see things, an opportunity other people don't see, or they're really good executors. They go hell for leather rather than having both of those things. So I'm really conscious about doing both of those things in my life. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, look, I'm not going to ask you the standard question here that I normally ask everyone else at the end. I'm going to ask you a different question. And that's when your parents, your mum and your dad, listen to this, what are they thinking about you, the person that you've become? What's in their mind?
First of all, they're very busy people. 9 kids. I think I've got 25 nephews and nieces. There was a new one born 3 days ago. She's really cute. Her name's Mia Rose. But they're extremely busy people. So hopefully they'll get a chance to listen to this. But I think that my mom is the most amazing person to me. She's been by my side through my ups and my downs, and actually my dad as well. And I think that, hopefully they're proud of me. But, my journey is just beginning, my friend. There's so much more to do. there's so much more business to do. I love doing motivational speaking and helping people. When I can just change one person's life, I'm making a massive difference. And there are so many kids out there in the world that need our help, Hark Angel's help. There's one thing that I would like to say is I was introduced to you, Paul, do you remember who introduced us?
Yes, yeah, Bonnie.
Bonnie Power. So am I able to quickly just tell Bonnie's story?
Yeah, please do.
Thank you. So I was put in touch with Bonnie last November, and I heard the story of her son. His name is Jack Power. Now, Jack, a year and a half ago, was very tragically killed crossing a road in Melbourne. Bonnie, they think that he was hit by a driver that ran through a red light, and Jack was 10 years old crossing the road with his sister and her friend. They managed to get out of the way. Jack was hit, and like all donors, Jack hit his head, was taken to hospital, 10 years old. And Bonnie is such a courageous woman.
Mm.
You know, she's such an amazing person. She lost the thing which she loves in her life so much, more than anything else. And she had the courage to allow Jack to become a donor. Now, Jack, his tissue and his organs went to 36 different people.
Wow.
He was a hero. And that's what Hark Angel is about. Hark Angel, one of the big things is donors are heroes. That boy, which was my donor, he was like an angel to me. I had to call the charity something, and I called it Hark Angel. When I heard Jack's story, I was so blown away. I decided to allow Jack to be the new Hark Angel. So school 10 is dedicated to Jack Power. And we have a plaque outside every school with Jack's story. Bonnie came with me, his mum, and she put up one of the plaques at a school opening in April. It was a really emotional but amazing experience. And the thing with donors are, because they're dead and we don't know who they are, for the most part, you can never make them into a hero. And they're kind of like unforgotten heroes. And part of what Hark Angel is about celebrating who they are and actually bringing names to people who have become donors. Even if they're dead, they still live on through all of us.
Yeah, that's amazing. And look, Bonnie is a good friend of mine. She is, as you said, an absolutely inspirational person, as you are. And I think everyone listening today will, go and make a positive change in the world based on hearing your amazing story, Richie. But most importantly, what you're doing today. Your story's great, but if it's left as a story, it's not complete. And I love the ability for you to have your story, but also go and implement, as you said before. So you can find everything about Hark Angel at harkangel.org. We'll put all of Richie's other businesses and other links that he's mentioned in the show notes. But
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure having you on the show today.
Can I leave with one last thing, which you've kind of just touched on? And it's what Hark Angel is all about. It's about, you don't have to build schools to make a difference in this world. Whoever's listening out there, just do one little good deed today. If it's helping your grandmother with her groceries or telling someone you even love them who really, really needs it, you are changing the world. And that's what Hark Angel is about. One little good deed. If we all did one good deed in the world would be a very different place. Thank you so much, Paul. Always great to speak to you.
Yeah, same, Richie. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just love Richie's energy. It was just amazing, an incredible interview. It's definitely one that I'm going to listen to many times. You can get all the links in the show notes at buildlivegive.com/podcast. If you believe someone you know would benefit from the show, and I'm sure many would, please share it with them. Richie would love to get your feedback and appreciation by donating at harkangel.org, and all these links will be in the show notes. You can get the Build Live Give book at buildlivegive.com/book. If you have it and liked it, please leave a review. Once again, there'll be links to this in the show notes. Please take action to build new revenue streams to fund your lifestyle and give back.
Thank you for listening to the Build, Live, Give podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review. It would mean the world to us.